All right, guys, we're now down to the last part of the inverse proportion, and it's all about algebraic equation and solving uh, other forms of inverse proportion using algebraic equation and answering word problems involving inverse proportion. Okay, so again, the formula that you need to remember is y is equivalent to k over x, and k is equivalent to y times x. However, in this case, you have to understand that some forms of the x might be having radicals or exponents. So let me give you an example. So in the first one, it says that y is inversely proportional to the square root of x. And what I want you to do is to notice how I write the equation based on the statement that we have. All right, so you will see that in this case, what I did was I put the y in here, and this statement is inversely proportional to refers to this part of the fraction of the equation. And then I just plug in this particular square root of x. So in this procedure, all you need to do is to follow the steps that we had been doing since the direct proportion. Number one is write the basic equation. Number two is to find the value of k. So in this case, the value of k will now give you y times the square root of x, which means that if these are if the values of y and x are equivalent to 6 and 4, so this is going to give you a calculation of y, which is 6, times x, which is the square root of 4. So this is now going to give you 6 times 2, which is 12. And the third procedure that you guys are going to do now is to plug it into this particular equation. So if k is equivalent to 12, then this would mean that the equation that we're going to get is going to be y is equivalent to 12 over the square root of x. So you now have these three processes, and all you need to do now is to answer A, B, and C. So since A is asking for the equation connecting y and x, or x and y, all you need to do is to type or to write down whatever we got from the third step. The next portion here tells us that we are going to calculate the value of y when the value of x is equivalent to 16. So using the same formula, you are just going to plug in the value of x, which is equivalent to 16. So in this case, I will put 16 here inside because that is where the x is. And then afterwards, I'm going to calculate it. So y is equivalent to 12, and then we know that the square root of 16 is equivalent to 4, which gives us the value of y as equivalent to 3. Okay, I hope you guys understand that. And now we're going to go down to the third calculation. So in the third calculation, you're asked to find the value of x when the y is equivalent to 4. So again, following the equation procedure, y is equivalent to 12 over square root of x. We are now going to replace the y with 4. And the rest of the equation will just automatically be the same to what we get in to what we have in the equation that we acquire in letter A. So from here, all you need to do is to switch these two. So this is now going to give you square root of x is equivalent to 12 over 4. And we know that this 12 over 4 can be processed to become 3. So now we will end with square root of x is equivalent to 3, meaning to say you have this number that when you square root, it results to 3. So if you are confused on how to get that particular number, all you need to do is to eliminate this radical sign by simply squaring both sides of the equation. So from here, we can eliminate this one. So this is now going to give us x is equivalent to 3 squared. And we know that 3 squared is equivalent to 9. A very simple way, and the procedure is just going to be the same. So if you're answering direct proportion, inverse proportion, a direct proportion, and other forms, so the procedure is just 1, 2, 3 steps, and you are going to get the calculation for you to be able to get the answer. All right? So I would like you guys to pause this video and try to answer this one now. Okay, so let's assume that you guys pause it. Okay, and we are going to answer this particular one. So it says here y is inversely proportional to x squared. So I'm going to write it in this particular manner in such a way that it follows the format of the statement. And for us to solve the value of k, what we need to do is to just multiply the value of y, which is equivalent to 2, to the value of x squared. Okay, so we will now get here 2 times 16, which results to 32. So if your k now is equivalent to 32, then that means your equation will now become y is equivalent to 32 over x squared. All right, so now we're going to move on to answering these questions for A, B, and C. So in letter A, it's just asking us to find the equation connecting the x and the y. So since we already got this one, all you need to do is to just plug it in. So y is equivalent to 32 over x squared. Okay, now from here, what you need to do next is to answer letter B in such a way that you are going to substitute the value of x in the first equation for us to be able to get the y. So let's say, for example, y is equivalent to 32, and we know that x, which is equivalent to 8, will now automatically be squared. Okay, so notice that I just changed the x in the given calculation or equation. And from here, you are now going to simplify. So you will have here 32 over 64. And we know that 32 and 64 can be divided by 32. So this will now arrive in an answer of half. Okay. For letter C, the procedure is just the same. So notice that I will just substitute that particular letter with this particular number for me to solve the other variable. So let's say here, the y is equivalent to 8. So that means this y in the equation will now become 8. Okay, so equals to 32 over x squared. Okay, so again, just like what we did here, we switch these two values. So this is going to now give us x squared is equivalent to 32 all over 8. Okay, 32 all over 8. Or did that become small? 32 all over 8. So we know that x squared is equivalent to 32 divided by 8 is 4. And now notice, guys, that it says here, calculate the values of x. So it was emphasized that the values, okay, the term values, meaning to say there should be more than one answer. Okay, so if we are going to get the square root of x, this will tell us that there will be two possible answers, plus, minus 2. So for those who don't understand how we get plus, minus 2, remember, squaring the number, okay, will give us two possibilities for us to arrive with 4. So let's say, for example, if I have 2 times 2, which can be written as 2 squared, the answer will become 4, I mean. So another thing is that if you have -2 multiplied to itself, just like how how it's a square number is, so automatically this will become -2 bracket squared. And if you do that, it will still arrive with a +4. All right, I hope you guys understand that. So all you need to do is to play this backwards if in case you still don't get how to answer this question. Okay, real life situation. Just like what I say, guys, the procedure of us answering inverse proportion is the same. So you will have y is equivalent to k over x, or you are going to have the k as equivalent to y times x. All right. So knowing this, all you need to do is to understand there are some portions of this question that will give you, all right, the clue on where the equation must be taken. So it says here, F newtons between two particles, or the force F newtons between two particles is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So what I need you to do is to highlight this one. And you will notice that there are two variables here, F, Newton, in newtons, and the other one is the D, which refers to the distance. However, it was also stated that in the distance, there is this term that says that you have to square it. So if you are going to analyze this, this is now going to give you this particular equation. F is inversely proportional to, okay, the square of the distance. So you have distance squared. So if this is the first step, the second step is for us to find the value of k. So for us to be able to get that, we must first have the value of this d and f in the given equation or in the given problem. And as you can see here, it was stated at the last part of the statement or the question to find the particles, okay, find the force when when the particles are 2 meters apart. So that means that the 2 meters in particular refers to the distance, and the force between them is 10 N, which means that this particular value refers to the force. So in this case, finding the value of k will now be a calculation of force, which is 10, times the square of the distance, which eventually will give you 40. Okay? So now, as soon as you get this, all you need to do is to plug it into the equation again. The equation now will become F is equivalent to 40 over d squared. And then it says in letter A that you are going to find the force between the particles when they are 5 meters apart. So in this case, so let's say you're answering letter A, you have to understand that this 5 meters apart refers to the distance. So this will give you an idea that you're looking for the value of F. So again, the formula is F is equivalent to 40 over d squared. So it's going to give you 40 over the value of the d being squared. So this is going to be 40 over 25. Right? So from here, all you need to do is to simplify. We know that both terms can be divided by 5. So this is going to give you 8 over 5. If you divide both values by 5, and eventually it is going to give you 1 and 3 over 5. Okay, I hope you guys fully understand this part. So now let's go to letter B. Letter B says that the distance between the particles when the force between them is 25 Newton. So in here, the F now was replaced by 25, which means that the calculation will be different this time, over d squared. Okay. So in here, what you need to understand next is to find the value of d. So this is going to give you d squared is equivalent to 40 over 40 over the value of 25. So this is going to give you d squared is equivalent to the simplified version of 40 over 25 is going to give you 8 over 5. And then the square root of 8 over the d, for us to find the value of d, we now have to understand that the d is equivalent to the square root of 8 over 5. All right, so now in here, we are going to find that the value of the d is equivalent to square root of 8 over 5. So in this case, you may or you may not find the exact value for this one, because these two numbers, 8 and 5, are not square numbers. Okay, so now let me just show you this particular calculation. And what I want you to do next is to stop this video and try to answer what is there in front of the screen. Okay, so now let's assume that you guys have answered this one. So going to the procedure again, it says that S is inversely proportional to T minus 2. So if we are going to rewrite it, it is going to give us S is equivalent to K over T minus 2. So this would tell us that we have to understand how to understand which does S represent and what does T represent in the given problem. So in here, it says here that the bacteria left in the unit of S. So that means the S unit refers to the number of bacteria left. And it says here in one flask, there are 6 units of bacteria left. And the T here, this time refers to the time in terms of hours. So this will tell us that the hours left is 5. Okay. So there are 6 units of bacteria left after 5 hours. And what we are going to look for is the amount of bacteria left in the other flask in 7 hours. So again, solving for the value of K, we can rewrite this as S is equivalent to T minus 2, which will give us a calculation of 6. T is 5, so it's going to be 5 minus 2. So if we simplify this one, this is going to give 6 times 3, which eventually will give us 18. So we now know that the value of the K is equivalent to 18. And then we are just going to plug it in again to the equation. T is minus 2. All right. So now, after finding the equation, what you need to do next is to just substitute the value that is given in the question. So the question is asking for the amount of bacteria, which means that in here, we are asked to solve for the value of S. And since it says here that the time of hours is equivalent to 7, so this will be indeed a value that has to be substituted for the T in the given equation. So let me solve it here. So you will have 18 over 7 minus 2. So 7 minus 2, which gives us 18 over 5. So now this is going to give us 3 and 3 over 5. Or simply, we can write it as 3.6 units. Okay. Now, I hope you guys fully understand this question and the explanation. And I wish you good luck to your whatever you guys are going to answer. And that's it for now. Goodbye and have a nice day.